What's this guy? It's kind of like a Jim Carrey moment. He he um, he does things only Jim Carrey could do. This moment when he goes up on an imaginary horse is interesting. I mean, I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's got a lot of things going for it. I think that I don't know if there's a real story that you have in mind here. Like, is this guy trying to do an actual scene? When he falls down, is he like, how does he feel about that? I feel like he's just going through the motions. It's almost like you just had a bunch of ideas of what a cowboy or person trying to go for the role of a cowboy would do in an audition, and you just have this character doing those things. But there's no real there's not really a story there. And I'm always looking for a story. Whenever I look at these little moments, I'm always looking for some sort of narrative. And here I'm kind of missing out on that. I also really don't like the way he falls and lands. It doesn't feel believable. It feels very rigid, like he just looks like a brick that lands. One of my key problems is people they always end up having feet bounce like this and forgetting that when a foot bounces, it tends to roll a bit too. A foot would come down and strike the ground, and then the momentum gets converted into an angular momentum, and it tends to kind of, it doesn't even kind of do a bounce like that. Feet don't tend to do that. They tend to kind of transfer into something that feels a bit more like this. So I think that, there's some work to be done there, but meanwhile there's all this crazy stuff going on with this riding this imaginary horse. I feel like that would have been that was your interesting thing. I feel like I would have just ran with that almost and played with some sort of gag that happens based on the fact that he's riding an imaginary horse. I'm not coming up with any genius ideas right now, but I feel like there's, rather than trying all these different ideas, like he comes in and he does that, but then he falls off and he gets up and then he does this gun thing. Maybe it would have been better, more beneficial to like rely on developing one gag rather than just throwing a bunch of different things at the audience. Okay. There's some really, really cool ideas here. I'll give you that for sure. I think there's some really cool things. Like, I like how like one thing leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing. I think that that in itself is pretty interesting. I'm not getting the audition vibe. There's nothing here that makes me feel like this is an audition. That being said, there's just, if this is just a cool moment that we're just watching somebody be a cowboy, and this is like your stereotypical projection of what a cowboy is, I think it's interesting and entertaining. I think the gag, it's not fully understood here. Like, I like this idea that he grabs a cigarette from behind his ear, flicks it up, and shoots it. I don't know if like, I think the idea is that he's lighting his cigarette like this. I think is kind of the idea. But I don't know if there might have been a better way to show that. There's also kind of like this there's a bit of a random moment at the end where like there's a scream off camera. Like, I don't know if that's you trying to make it like an audition. I don't know, but it doesn't work for me. Like, it seems too out of nowhere as opposed to trying to set it up a bit like it's an audition, and then we get the people screaming as maybe someone off camera screaming at like a bird being murdered in front of her. I don't know. Other little moments that kind of bug me, and I know I'm just being a picky jerk about this, but like, for instance, like I mean, this is a bit of a pet peeve. I don't like it when there's a simple animation, like a foot compressing on a box. That should be easy. And there's a detail that's added, but it's completely wrong. So the foot strikes the box, but then if you look, the bottom of the box scales upwards. Like it doesn't, like I don't, so it doesn't really feel like an actual proper compression. It just looks like something that just sort of scales out and back again, which, you know, it just seems sloppy, especially for like a bunch of really great work. It seems a pity to then kind of drop the ball on something obvious. That being said, lots of personalities, and this last moment here, I really like this. I always applaud people that spend the time and the energy it takes to do proper smears. I love it. I think there's not enough of it. I just can't get enough of it. I really, really like it, and this is not easy to do. I think that. Yeah, I think that's really cool that you added that. I think it's cool. I'm gonna try to pick up the pace. Otherwise, we're gonna be here like literally all night. Nice. I like this one a lot. I think it's cool because it's simple. I think that some stage setting would have really helped, but I actually don't even need it so much because I get that it's like he's auditioning, like I'm the audience, I'm the director. I think that works. Like I think it might have been better if we set the stage a little bit with maybe some props, but like it just would have made it better, but it doesn't make it not work. I think the reason why this works is because it's set up like this. It's the fact that he comes in shy, he makes eye contact with the camera, and then he kind of goes into character, does his thing, and then he goes back off of character. And he kind of goes right back to his shy self and then wanders out of off the camera. I think this is great. This to me makes it feel like there's acting going on there because there's like two personalities I see on the screen, and I think that really works really well. I think it's interesting because I get the human element of this. I understand like it's like you're telling a story about what it's like to audition. I think there's like you have a message to tell an audience. Where a lot of the other animations I've seen tonight so far, there's not really any message. There's no real message to the audience. It's like a projection of like you heard cowboy, you heard audition, and that made you think of a bunch of cool cowboy ideas, so you just started doing cowboy stuff, as opposed to remembering you're supposed to be telling some sort of character moment. This is a character moment. That's what this is. I'm looking at a character moment and I like it. So, bravo.